Hey guys, and welcome back to Steampunks. My name is Jess.
And I'm Ed.
And you're tuned into the show where we run through all of the releases that have come through on Steam over the past week and tell you what are the good ones you should keep an eye out for. Ed, what did you have this week?
Okay, first up this week is a game called Laser League. This is a futuristic sports game from the studio that brought you the skateboarding game Ollie Ollie. So this is a 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 scenario where you're running around an arena which has moving laser fields that can be activated via nodes by sort of either team. And once you activate a node, you can naturally run through your own colored laser fields, and you get creamed if you run into an opponent's laser field.
Cool.
So once you activate one of these nodes, they'll expire after a while, and so the whole game is sort of a balance between grabbing the nodes as they appear and disappear and keeping control of the map. So each field has a different layout and different nodes that do different things and all that kind of stuff. So your goal in Laser League is to be the last team standing. So first of all, you can run to the edge of a map and you'll appear on the other side. So that makes it possible to escape really, really dire situations, as well as set up sneak attacks by keeping an eye on the other side. And once someone gets down, they can easily be revived if a teammate just touches the icon they leave on the floor. And then you can pick like different classes with different abilities. So each of the class has one unique skill and then a couple of modifiers that slightly alters that skill's behavior. So you can choose classes like the Hunter, which is basically like an insta-kill dash strike. A Charger, who is non-lethal, but knocks people away. And then there are more interesting and indirect classes like the Shocker, who can just stun other players and sort of makes them collapse on the floor, unable to move for a while. And then there are also powers that pop up on the field and can drastically change the field if they're activated. But these sort of behaviors like swapping all the nodes to the opposite color or say splitting up solid laser walls. So it's not always advantageous to activate one if you're in the lead. So Laser League is coming out on Xbox One and PS4 at the same time as PC, and they've said they're working on crossplay, but whether that's going to be enough after launch is something we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But as it stands, if you have 4 friends and you just want like a really, really fast, fun, and like hilarious party game, competitive party game, Laser League is $15 only.
Alright, well that game looks really fun. I also had quite a lot of fun playing a huge game this week, which is why this week I'll just be talking about the one game. I'm about 6 hours into Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. It does carry on from the end of the first game, which means there's a lot of nice little Easter eggs and revisiting characters in there for people who played the first game, but it's also a pretty good entry point for those who didn't. On that point, you can import a history of your decisions in the first game, or you can just create a new one. So your impetus is that you're the captain of a ship chasing a towering god across the Deadfire archipelago, and you can help or hurt people you encounter as you go. This game is a ton of fun. It's made by Obsidian, who are responsible for one of my favorite RPGs of all time, Knights of the Old Republic 2, and I really don't think they've let anybody down with this one. They are really good storytellers, and this is a great story. Pillars of Eternity 2 is absolutely charming and crazy robust. It will put some people off in that it's incredibly complex. Everything from the combat to the way you design your characters and the RPG elements demands a lot of attention and patience. But if you're willing to put that in, and if you love RPGs, this one has a lot to give. So apart from the traditional isometric traversing of towns and such, there's a really nice overworld map. It's totally worth exploring, and it rewards you for exploring. There are a ton of magical place names and gods and races and things that happened that are mentioned early on, but the game's pretty smart about ensuring that all those terms can be hovered over for an explanation. So combat is not turn-based, although you will be pausing it all the time so you can issue commands and tell people where they need to be. There is also party AI, which is on by default. So there's the opportunity to tell the party AI exactly what skills you want it to prioritize, when you want it to cast certain spells, when you want it to do this or engage or how to engage, and you can take on as much or as little of this as you want to. There's a variety of difficulty settings ranging from story mode, where everything's going to be a breeze, all the way to brutally tricky. Ship combat is a huge part of this game as you're venturing through the archipelago, so half the time you're actually on your ship and managing your ship and your crewmates and such. Combat on the high seas is delivered in scripted sequences and it's turn-based. Whether you're exploring on your boat or on the land, you'll occasionally encounter scripted events where you make choices based on your stats or morals. These include your party stats stats, not just the stats of the character you create in the beginning. So it's a good idea to balance those, and it's really interesting to see how you can engage with things based on choices you've made as you level. One thing I really love about this game is that everything you say to anybody changes what kind of person you are. So this whole game is very heavily drawing from D&D. And there is something in your character sheet that tells you how kind you are, how honest you are, how benevolent, how nasty. So this game is $50, which is a lot, but the characters are really vibrant and well voiced. The combat on land and ships is way more interesting than your isometric hack and slash games. And the story is really well paced, so you want to keep going back, but you don't feel rushed to take one more step on your journey or just go off and do something else.
Sometimes the feelings, they just come tumbling right out of me. Gods darn it.
All right, you like wordy games? Well, the next game I'm going to talk about is very wordy as well, but it's Japanese. This is a visual novel called Steins Gate Zero. I'm sure a lot of you know what a visual novel is, but if you don't, it's a style of narrative adventure game which has a huge focus on characters and story. Steins Gate is a very, very popular series, and it's up there with Zero Time Dilemma and Danganronpa. And the reason why all these guys are popular is because they all have really, really complex stories full of big twists, reveals, and really mindfuck story points. So Steins Gate Zero is actually a sequel to the original Steins Gate, and it's got a big focus on science and technology as it deals with concepts of time travel, the morals of AI, and how the brain and memory works. And it basically deals with a version of time travel whereby there is sort of like multiple variations on a timeline that exists, but there's only one running at a certain time until another one is activated and is brought into the main timeline. The protagonist you play has the ability to swap the active timeline by sending text. As a sequel, I actually think it's fine to jump straight into this one if you missed the first one. One of the reasons is that the writing is very slow, very explanatory, and they tend to retread over the same points again and again.
Yep.
And because this is a story that deals with time travel, you're actually experiencing events from a new beginning anyway. Steins Gate is also really good at handling obscure fictional terms in glossary, much like you were saying with Pillars of Eternity.
Right.
So when they're introduced for the first time, they're highlighted, and you can pop into sort of a glossary for a very short, very easily digestible explanation of what might potentially be a new concept to you. But I can tell you from experience with a lot of these types of games that sticking with them is worth it, because the text eventually does draw you pretty deep into the characters and the events happening. And that really helps, because when shit starts to go down, it really, really hits you. Steins Gate Zero on its own is $35, and bundled with the original Steins Gate, it is $60.
私のこと覚えてて
So it sounds like you did a lot of reading.
I did
in
do a
that
lot of
game.
reading.
And I saw you playing another game this week where you did a lot of dying.
I did do a lot of dying. I did a lot of dying, and I did a lot of building
Yes.
in Conan Exiles. It's a third-person survival game set in the Conan the Barbarian universe. This is the first time I've played it. It's been in early access for a while, and man, this game is friggin' huge. I had no idea how huge this game was. This is very much a granular survival game with a huge focus on crafting and combat and exploration. The gist is that you've been exiled, you're in exile. Conan comes and cuts you down off a cross, and it's up to you to survive in this huge land along with other exiles. So you have to worry about things like thirst, hunger, temperature, health, stamina, and start kitting yourself out with more advanced tools to help you build things like weapons, armor, harvesting tools, all the way up to friggin' elevators for your eventual skyscraper and huge siege weapons like catapults and trebuchets. So yeah, like I said, this was in early access for a long time, and it started off as a game that seemingly everyone hated. But it's come such a long way, and the community seems to be completely in love with this game now. It still feels like a game that has some kinks and bugs in it. For example, I hate the UI with a passion, and I cannot imagine playing this on a console, even though it is out on Xbox and PS4 as well. But it's kind of the thing where it's a game that's so massive and ambitious that you can kind of forgive all of that. I was caught off guard initially because when I first got into it, I wasn't seeing any indicators that told me what I could pick up. Which is what I'm used to in sort of like lighter survival games. Until I realized that almost everything I could see was up for grabs.
Oh my gosh.
So I would have to be collecting the grass for like plant fibers and from bushes I was coming across, picking up rocks and sticks off the ground like to get started. And the crafting tree is intense. So you can play this game either online on a server filled with people or offline by yourself. When it comes to online, you can play on PvP servers where anything goes, or purely PvE servers. You know what? It kind of feels a little bit like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
It has the Zelda-style biomes, and it's taken a leaf out of Breath of the Wild's book, and you can climb on any sort of mountainous surface. There are dungeons to raid. There's a religion system where you can worship a deity. There are huge world bosses that you can apparently take down. There's a cooking system. There's a dye system. So one other thing in Conan Exiles is that it was infamous for its character creation. Playing a survival game like this that has like full nudity makes you feel really vulnerable.
It also makes sense for it to have full nudity.
It also makes sense. When you die and you lose all your shit and you spawn like naked, you feel like you feel naked. You feel like helpless. I honestly think if I only had time to play one new survival game on PC like this year, it would probably be Conan Exiles.
Okay, well, some completely different games for you this week. Do let us know which one of these 4 games grabbed your interest this week, or if there's a brand new game that you had a look at that we may have missed. You can let us know on our Twitter accounts. I'm at Jess McDonald.
And I'm at Edwin Tran.
And do remember, we will be back next week with 4 brand new games, but do let us know if there's anything we should keep an eye on in the meantime. We'll see you then.